Hello, world. My name is Sasha Goodfriend, and I have the honor of being chair of the Menstruation Through Menopause channel of Our Bodies Ourselves. And I'm so excited to welcome you all to our conversation today with Michele Gilman. Michele Gilman, a professor of law at University of Baltimore, who is going to tell us a bit about the intersections between surveillance and reproductive justice. This is a quickly evolving landscape here, and I know that there are a lot of people out there with questions about what apps can we trust, and where can we get information, and so we're going to dive in a bit into that conversation today. To start us off with, Michele, we would love for you to tell us a bit about your work at the Civil Advocacy Clinic and the Center on Applied Feminism, and what brought you to the intersections of technology, law, and specifically focusing on marginalized communities.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, Our Bodies Ourselves. I'm delighted to be here. I represent low-income people in civil litigation, and I supervise students in that law practice. It's part of my work at the University of Baltimore Law School. And over time, I've been seeing ways that data-centric technologies are adversely impacting my clients. So different automated decision-making systems are impacting whether they get housing, whether they get employment, what sort of healthcare they get. And that is an issue that just arose in my dockets. I wasn't knowledgeable about it beforehand, but to be a competent attorney, I need to know about it now. And meanwhile, in my work through the Center on Applied Feminism, which seeks to bring theory into real life practice and practice insights into feminist legal theory, I've been seeing the ways that data-centric technologies can adversely impact women. And so this is, as you said, the world we live in now. And this is where my practice has gone and where my research has gone as well.
Thank you so much for that overview. That's really helpful. I think a lot of times now in 2025, we don't even realize when we are online. It's become so part of our daily life. Can you break down some of the online interactions that we might have without even realizing it that could be co-opted by bad actors?
Yeah. Well, information about you is being gathered all the time. Your web searches, the keystrokes you type in your computer, your social media output, your emails, your purchases, everything you do on the internet and on your smartphone is being gathered at all times. And even when you're not on the internet and you're moving through public spaces, there are video surveillance cameras capturing you. There's facial recognition technology capturing you. There are automated license plate readers which know where you're driving. There are tools watching you. Ring cameras are another example of these tools that are watching you even when you're not aware of it. And all that data gets aggregated into a digital profile about you. And these profiles are bought and sold by many, many industries that are interested in learning about you, your habits, your personality, your behavior. And some of it is for marketing and advertising, but it can also serve these gatekeeping functions. As I mentioned a little earlier, these profiles will determine what housing you get, how much you pay for credit, whether you're going to get a job, the level of healthcare that you're going to get. And so many other decisions. So it's about so much more than advertising and marketing, which is a piece that people sort of see and are aware of. But these digital profiles serve as gatekeepers to a lot of things you need to live your life.
So how would menstruation and our reproductive health, how does that get caught up in our digital profile? It's something, menstruation specifically is something that we hardly talk about in our society. And yet I know that there are period tracking apps that are used to help people predict when their next period will be. And so who cares about when our period is specifically? Why is that information as valuable?
Well, obviously people who menstruate care and want information to empower knowledge about their own bodies and their own health. And that's a good thing. But the problem is a lot of these apps are created by companies to make money. And they're gathering really sensitive information about people who menstruate. Not just your demographic data, but really personal information is often gathered, sexual practices and positions, moods and feelings, physical indicators such as the extent of menstrual flow or the quality of cervical mucus. There's a lot of information that people voluntarily put into these apps. And you may not be paying for the apps, but you are indirectly, because the company that designed the app is probably taking your data and using it to sell to other third parties. Like, that's the profit model here. Not for all apps, but for many, many of the most common apps. And the concern now in the post-Dobbs environment is that this data could be used in a red state by a law enforcement official or prosecutor who is working to criminalize abortions, because with all this detailed data, there are indicators of pregnancy or termination of pregnancies. And it's not just the menstruation app you have to be concerned about, it's your entire digital trail, okay? Because we know that, and here's some data I have for you, from 2000 to 2020, at least 61 people were criminally investigated or arrested for allegedly ending their own pregnancy or helping someone else to do so. Okay, that's even in the pre-Dobbs environment. And police were using digital evidence in those prosecutions. So text messages, online searches, cell phone records, social media activity. I don't know the case yet that was using menstrual app data, but that is of a kind with these other data crumbs that law enforcement is interested in. There's a case that was quite high profile of a mother who was sentenced to 2 years in prison for obtaining abortion medication for her daughter. And it was Facebook Messenger chats that are how prosecutors were able to prosecute that case. There's another case where prosecutors used a woman's keyword searches about abortion medication to prosecute her after she had a miscarriage. So we know that prosecutors use digital evidence, and these period tracking apps are just yet another form of digital evidence that people need to be concerned about, but not the only one.
It's like literally Big Brother is watching you all the time. And it's wild to think about how, an app that serves one purpose, like tracking your period, can also give way to information about pregnancy and then your geolocation and your text messages, other apps that we trust and use all the time to, like, how would we get from point A to point B if we don't have Google Maps giving us the way, giving us the directions, how those all can create a digital profile that's can be used by law enforcement to prosecute us, and that it even pre-Dobbs
Right.
in cases where this is happening means that we know that this is going to happen. It's not just a few people that they're looking to make examples out of. This can be used systemically. Wow. So who can we trust? We can't trust our government on the federal level, especially, and depending on the states, we can't trust, or maybe any states at certain points. We can't trust. Are there any apps that we can trust? Are there any ways that we can use our technology still? There's ways to track periods and get directions from point A to point B without technology, but it feels like it's a point of no return in a broad cultural way. We're depending on cell phones and GPS. So are there ways that we can use our technology safely at all?
Yeah, there are definitely some apps that are safer from a data privacy perspective than others. So, Consumer Reports has done a lot of research work in this space. They recommend 3 apps. Drip is one, Periodical, and another one called Yuki, EUKI, which also, Yuki in particular, comes up a lot as recommended in this space. And what makes these apps different is they store data locally. So, for instance, it would just go on your phone. It is not transmitted to the cloud. And these particular apps do not allow third-party tracking. So that is what is making them more secure as tools. Some women are opting to use, some menstruators, I should say, are opting to use spreadsheets, like an Excel spreadsheet. It's not connected to the cloud. So that's a form of technology that you might have total control over. Some people use their calendar app built into their phone and just use certain symbols that are known to them, but not to anyone else. And the health app on the iPhone can be a popular tool as long as all the privacy settings are turned on. So there are safer tools out there if this is you want to use technology for your own empowerment, and you should be able to use technology for your own empowerment, but you really have to be an educated consumer. And because these tools are constantly evolving and changing, you do have to do a little work to stay on top of these different tools, privacy policies, their benefits, and their shortcomings. But there are great resources out there for you. For instance, the Electronic Frontier Foundation has great information about maintaining the security of reproductive health information, and the Digital Defense Fund does as well. So those websites are kept quite up to date and have very detailed, helpful information. So there is help out there, but of course, for some people, just going on those websites to look up information could be a tell. So I would encourage people to use privacy protective browsers, not just the one that came on your phone or laptop, but a browser like DuckDuckGo. There are ones that protect your search information more securely than others.
Digital self-defense. There
Yeah.
are ways that we can keep our information, be more proactive in keeping our information private. And a key thing is recognizing which one of our apps are saving information on the device versus which of our apps are sending information, or our phone built in often sends information back to the cloud. Thank you so much for sharing those resources and naming them. We have posted about Yuki before on Obos, but it's so great to have this whole tool belt of resources that we can rely on. That's what Obos, Our Bodies, Ourselves, is here for, to be able to share with our audience resources that we can trust, because there is not just a one-stop shop for any question. We need to have a whole variety of apps that we can use to cross-check information. So that's really helpful.
Absolutely. And I would also say, as you are texting with your own family, friends, and communities around particularly reproductive health issues, but in general, I would move to a texting app such as Signal, which provides end-to-end encryption, and you can set your messages to disappear after a set amount of time, and thereby ensure that they could never fall into the hands of law enforcement, and they surely won't also be feeding what we call surveillance capitalism, or this scraping of our data for digital profiling purposes.
That's really helpful. We will be sharing all of these apps with you all at the end of this recording also. I do have Signal, and I got it during I think it was during the Occupy Wall Street, organizing over 10 years ago. And it's one of those things where at first it can feel like another app that you're downloading, but when you incorporate it into your life and you talk to your friends and family about why you're using it, it's a really important conversation to have, and that makes it easier if you're not the only one and you can share that network together.
Absolutely. Once you start using it, it becomes second nature, just like the app that's built into your phone. Like, you won't even think about it at all. So easy to use.
And it's so helpful to hear about ways we can be empowered and take control over what feels like a huge out of our control situation. How technology works and the surveillance and all the actors that are out there that want our information, that maybe know more about our profile than we even consciously do. And so I really appreciate you giving us some ways that we can take control and be proactive. So there's the individual level, the app level, and then thinking more broadly in terms of our organizations and policy on the state level. Maybe let's start with policy first. I know here in Massachusetts, where I live and where our bodies ourselves is located, there's the Location Shield Act, which is also being proposed in other states and would prohibit companies from selling cell phone location data, the uh, geolocation
Geolocation data. Yeah.
data that we were talking about earlier, which is, critical for people who are literally going to get their reproductive health care or for any other number of intersecting issues, whether that's immigration, protests, First Amendment rights in general. So what are other policies that you're seeing that folks can look at on their state level and on their local city level to organize around?
Sure. Well, these limits on geolocation data are really important. Evidence came out that a data broker was collecting location data about people who had visited abortion clinics, and then they sold those profiles for very little money to anyone who wanted to buy it. And lo and behold, an anti-abortion group wanted to buy it and started targeting those people on their smartphones with anti-abortion advertising. Okay, so this is real. This is not an abstract threat. And indeed, several states already have laws in this regard, including Nevada, Connecticut, New York, California, and Washington. So I'm glad to see Massachusetts is likely to join that group, and anyone, particularly in a blue state, should be advocating for similar protections. In Washington state, they enacted a very comprehensive law called My Health, My Data, which extends the HIPAA-style protections that we're all used to from visiting our doctor's offices, but they extend those protections to our Fitbits, our Apple Watches, our smartphones, all these other tools that collect health data and are not covered by HIPAA. So it is important for people to remember only what you tell your doctor is protected by HIPAA, right? So the idea of the Washington state law is to expand those types of protections to every other way we give health data to different companies and entities. So more states could definitely follow that model and really work to protect people's sensitive health data. New York passed a similar law. It is awaiting the governor's signature, but that law might also be a model for other states, whether it gets signed or not. So those are some of the sort of more cutting edge laws around digital data in particular.
That is really helpful to see that there are other states who are already taking action, because we know that once some states do, that makes it a lot easier to organize in your state because there's precedent around it. And of course, it's stronger the more states that we can get to to organize around that.
Right.
Similarly, we're seeing new legal situations with people giving telehealth and services like medical abortion across state lines and people traveling across state lines in order to receive reproductive care. How are you seeing that play out in the legal field? And also, how can people who maybe aren't lawyers help support people who are trying to get care across state lines? And what risks,
Yeah.
I guess, are there? And are there safe ways to still get involved in that work, despite the murkiness legally?
Yeah, so definitely providing financial support to abortion funds in blue states is essential to helping people across the country, even from red states, access reproductive health services. Some people are able to provide not just financial support, but other in-kind support, such as lodging, housing, transportation, things like that. And so you could be in touch with your local abortion fund about that. The sort of cross jurisdictional issues of red state policies and blue state policies coming into conflict are really novel issues of law that are very unsettled and, of course, very scary for healthcare providers and people seeking healthcare. And so that is, I can't give you a straight answer on that. That's an emerging area of law, but definitely there are good legal resources and legal counsel out there through like the National Women's Law Center, the Center for Reproductive Rights, organizations that are tracking on a daily basis where these laws and decisions are going.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So it sounds like, without a doubt, people can donate to abortion funds in blue states and feel secure that that abortion fund is going to be supported in how it uses its fund to help people across the country, and the people will also be supported in their advocacy doing that. It's so hard to think about how we have to be defensive in every single way that we're organizing, and yet I know even if it can feel overwhelming, abortion rights organizations are prepared for this moment. They were not caught blindsided. They've been ready and organizing to be defensive and work cross-sectionally for a while. And so what are some of the ways that organizations that you see already working to outsmart the Project 2025 organizers?
Yeah, well, I think it is largely what we're doing today, getting information out there to people so they can make the decisions that best serve their own choices and their own autonomy. So, working in coalition to make sure information is put out there in safe and secure ways. And then we've really seen post Dobbs, a lot of organizations sort of moving out of their silos. So, privacy groups, civil rights groups, reproductive health groups, getting out of their silos and working together jointly to try and secure reproductive justice for people across the United States. That's a very powerful movement. These are dark times right now, but we also have to be laying the groundwork for the future. We won't always be under this administration. We won't always be like in the throes of Project 2025. And we need to be ready to hit the ground running as soon as that moment happens and work to make it happen.
Thank you so much for sharing so many tips and tricks for folks to take advantage or take control of their digital health through on the individual level, on the organizational level, on the policy level, both in our states and helping across our state lines nationally. I hope everyone can hear that there are some ways to take action from this conversation, and to know that we can be in network together. This is
Yeah.
not one action that we can do and then the issue ends. We need to start somewhere and then to continue to be in community and know where we're getting our information from so that we can stay up to date with how the situation and the administration evolves.
Absolutely. And I would say, I know it can be overwhelming to think about securing your digital devices, whether it's your phone, your laptop, whatever it is. It can seem very technical. But as I said, there are great resources to walk you through it. And if you do one privacy protective action a week, in a couple weeks, you'll be light years ahead of where you are now. If this week is just downloading the Signal app, that's great. If next week you start using the DuckDuckGo browser, that's great. One step at a time. It doesn't have to happen all overnight. Every step you take will make a difference to securing your data privacy.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I am so grateful for your time and for breaking this down. Downloading the DuckDuckGo browser will be my next step personally, since I already had the Signal app downloaded. That will be my new frontier. And I'm really grateful for you taking the time to talk through menstrual surveillance with us.
My pleasure.